I'm sitting up in bed. It's bloody freezing cold. It's it's 6 o'clock in the morning over here. 6:52 a.m. in the morning. And I'm annoyed up. Yeah, look. I've actually had to put a bloody flannelette shirt on to keep your shoulders warm during the night. It's bloody freezing cold over here. So bloody Seattle like Jack. You know what he's done? He's come over here. Yeah, Seattle like Jack. I seen him outside the front window. Yep, he changed his name to Jack Frost. You all know the old joke about Jack Frost? Mm. Jack Frost is a joke. It's about that's how the ice comes on the front lawn in the morning. They used to tell us that when we're little kids, if you go outside, Jack Frost will get you. He'll come along and freeze you and make you turn you into an icicle. Therefore, then you got to stay inside and stay warm in bed until the sun comes up. Well, what am I hitting on today? I'm being a hominoid, yes. I'm getting back in my hominoids. Now, I have a friend over there in Ireland because called Irish Dude. Now, I don't know what's happened to him. I think he's been eaten up by Bigfoot over there in Ireland because I'm watching this very interesting documentary. Um, it's about the Irish Bigfoots in Ireland. And it actually shows you the same stuff we get here in Australia and what you get in America and what you get in Canada and even in France and England. So how do the Bigfoot get to Ireland? I think it's a very interesting question. So me being, hello, I've got somebody in the chat. I'm going to have a guess. I'm going to say that's Ivor. Is that you, Ivor? Is that my best mate, Ivor, or is that Irish Dude? No, somebody. Anyway, I know the bus stop. No, somebody's there. Say hello. Oh, just a story until you come up. I think I got the right handset this time. Yeah, I do. Yeah, so if your chat comes up, it should come up. Anyway, say good morning. Don't be bashful. Love to hear from you. Anyway, yeah, it's about 7 o'clock in the morning. It's cloudy. It's raining outside. It's bloody miserable. We've had 4 days of rain, so sound like Jack. You've definitely been sacked. You're no longer the Australian rain god. Um, um, hello. We've got Brendan. Hello, good morning to you, Brendan. G'day, dude. How you going, mate? It's good to hear from you. Where's Brendan from? You can leave me a comment. I won't say it if you don't want me to. If you don't want me to say where you are, just put apostrophe after it, and that's my way of doing things. If you want me to say where you are, that's fine. Good to hear from you, Brendan. I'm doing a thing on Irish Bigfoots. Now, I've only just come across this. I just started watching it. I think I am Mr. Hominoid. Hominoid means Bigfoot, hominid, which is Yowie, Yeti, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and all that sort of thing. I'm sort of swinging back to now coming back into what I originally was set up to do, which was doing Bigfoots and Yowies and all that sorts of stories. So I'm now getting into the position where I'm going to be doing stories from the history. And I've got a big congratulations to go out to a friend of mine in Queensland who started off there. He approached me 3 years ago and he said, "What's the best way, Mr. Ominoid, about doing? I've got a yowie in my backyard." And I went, "Oh my goodness me, what do you mean you got a yowie in your backyard?" And he said, "Well, I go down to the beach and there's all these strange things happening. There's trees bent over and the tree snaps up, 6 foot high, and the branches about this round. And he's on an island, and nobody can. It's physically impossible to put a human, put the hand above the head and break a branch, right? A human being is designed to have your arms down low and snap it in front of your chest. That's the way, because I know I've had both elbows rebuilt and I'm quite well aware of that. So I've been doing that. Yes, I am rugged up in my little bed. Yes, it's bloody freezing cold. It's about bloody 0 degrees here. Um, I feel like bloody 0 degrees. I think it's about 6 or 7 degrees Celsius, whatever that is. But if you're not aware, I've got to get two knee replacements. I've got to get both knees replaced. So it's very critical. I've got to keep them warm. If I get cold in them, they ache like hell. So yeah, my days are running around like a bloody rabbit, and they're over for the time being. Now, bit of good news. I've got a good friend up in Lithgow. We're going up seeing him next week. If he's on the chat, he can come in, or he'll probably watch this later. Hello, Tyson. Hope to hear from you. He's up there in Lithgow, up there where the guns are, and there's a Yowie story I busted that was up at a place called, I think it's Sunrise. It's not Sunrise. It's Sunny Corner. And the guy reckoned there was one there in the pine trees. And I went up there straight after he put it up, and it had something like 1,000 views, and I busted it. And when I went up there, I looked over there, and here where this guy reckoned this Yowie come out, he reckons it was there, and he could hear this noise in the background. And I drove up there within a week, and I found the piece of wood sitting in the mud, and the big stick was sitting there where they're going tap, tap, which is the same noise I heard in the video. So busted, that's a sunny corner Yowie story, and you see the pine trees in the background. So that one there's fake. And the young guy said to me, he said, I said, oh, why did you go to take a remote control car out there? Why did you drive all the way out there when you come from Bathurst? Now, Bathurst is about 50 miles away. So why would you drive a car 50 miles and then turn left off the main highway and go around a back loop? There's the highway there. So there's my hands, there's the highway. And you've got Sunny Corner Road's a loop. Why would you drive out there to go around just a bit of a dirt patch and play a remote control car? Whereas in Bathurst, they've actually got remote control car tracks, and it's also got farming area. It's also up there where the Bathurst 1000 is. So, I mean, you've only got to look at Bathurst on a Google Earth. You can see there's heaps of places. I mean, there's cows out in the paddocks at the back of Bathurst. Inside the Bathurst 1000 racetrack course, there's a winery. Yes, a bloody winery. A lot of, and cows and kangaroos. And even during the Bathurst 1000, there was even a goanna across the track, and they had the race. Yes, a goanna, a bloody lizard, because they're not allowed to run over it. It's wildlife. They've got to protect it. So this guy got busted, and then I said, "Oh," I said, "So what?" I said, "You drove out there. You're out there all by yourself." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, yeah. So how long you had your license?" And he turned around and said, "No, I don't have a license. My friend drove me." So he wasn't out there alone, was he? Because his friend drove him out there. So he dobbed himself in within 10 minutes of the conversation. He never realised. Because he said to me 10 minutes earlier, "I don't have a license." But in the video, he said, "I'm out here by myself." Well, then how the hell did he get out there if he's out there by himself? And he doesn't have a driver's license, and he came out there by car. Oh, so he's admitting driving a license. He's admitting driving illegally without a license. So if you want to go down and look it up, yeah, it's called the Sunny Corner Yowie, yeah, or Yowie at Sunny Corner. And you seen talk about. I actually stood right. I did a video on it. I deleted it. I shouldn't have deleted it. I'm going to go out there later on this week. I'll go out there Friday and I'll refilm it, and I'll make sure I'm going to try and put his video clip in there with mine. But I did go out there again. I think it might be down there. I don't know. It could be still down there on my channel. Morning, Ivor. I think that's Ivor. Um, oh, Brendan King was here. I don't know. Is that still Brendan? I don't know. Um, yeah. So it was interesting busting this guy. You reckon there was a yowie over there in the bushes? Walked over into the bushes, and it was full of bloody blueberry bushes. With the big spur thorns on them. So no, nothing was walking around. There was a few trails in there from foxes, but that's about it. And the only reason foxes were out there because the foxes, well, they're just a pest. But down the road is the jail, and down there at the jail, all the correctional service officers live around the jail in these houses, and they have chicken coops, and they have chickens, and they have their own tomatoes and all that sort of thing because it's a rural area. So you can actually see the correctional services houses where they are. You can see in the backyard. I actually filmed them. There was tomatoes, lettuce, carrots, cucumbers, green vines or whatever on them, water, a dam, chickens walking. You can actually see the chickens. So that's why there's foxes are hanging around. Anyway, get back on the story. I come across the story, Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio Program, episode 195, part one of this show, premium episode 194 is available. Bigfoot Eyewitness Radio .libsyn, libsyn.com. Now, whatever that is, I have no idea. I started listening to it, and it's about an Irish guy, and he starts showing bent over trees. Now, I'm going to come out. I come out this a long time ago. I don't think any of my new subscribers know about this. Okay, Mr. Hominoid is a Bigfoot, is a Yowie, and that's what I used to do. That's why I originally started doing the channel. I used to read all the Yowie stories from around Australia. Originally, when I first had surgery and I was bedbound, lounge bound, and my leg was poisoned, and I changed from being a railway YouTuber, which didn't really get much attention because I didn't do what all the other railway YouTubers used to do, inverted commas, which was stand on a bloody railway platform and film a train going past. And you stand there for hours and hours and hours. You see a train go past, clackety clack, clackety clack, and they don't talk and they don't do nothing. Well, as you can tell, I like to talk. So I gave that away. That was the YouTube channel was called GUNR.railway, which I had a couple of videos and several thousand views on, which is when I went out and done a railway bridge inspection. Now, what's that got to do with Bigfoot? Well, Yowie's what we call Yowie, Yowie. I was out. I had three occasions I ran into these bloody things while doing train tracks. Now, and not doing train tracks. First one was down on my channel is the event I had in 1978-79, which is in record on Bigfoot Case Files. She did not do a YouTube video on it. She said it's in her archive collection. So you actually got to go in line, and then you type in the heading New South Wales 78-79, and you'll see it says Mick and I. And that's the event there. Now, that was at a place called Howes Valley, which is on the Putty Road. And if you get out of my channel, you'll see a Dave's barbecue place where he's got made steel statues of emus and steel mailboxes of a wombat and a pig. And he has a stainless steel woo man, which is about 11 metres high up on top of a big thing, and one side of it's a female made out of stainless steel, the other side's a man, so it's called womb man. It's male and female either side. It's an enormous bloody statue. Well, just down the road from that, about 15 kilometres, is a place. Now that's called Garland Valley, Garland Valley, Putty Road. Now people say, okay, what's it called, Putty Road? I have no idea what it's called, Putty, Putty. I think possibly it was because of settlers called Putty, and they moved out, and how would you explain it? They come up from Newcastle up the Hunter River. Then they found themselves going up the Hunter River, turning left at Singleton, going up into a valley, which then eventually come into Darky Creek, and Darky Creek then runs up in the foothills, and they've got up there in the little rowboat, and they're going, holy smokes, look what we found. And there was this huge one area. It's like a mythical story. And you come around through the valley by boat or up the creek or walked up there or whatever they did. And it's usually rolling hills, right? So you got these hills that go over and over and over. Well, Putty Valley is this one big area. The stream is constantly running of water, and it's got this huge flat area within the mountain range. It's like a Jurassic Park in the future, and it's a fantastic place. A little boy went missing up there. He was on the story with David Paulides last year. Little boy disappeared up there in the Putty, and that's where he was. So if you go down and see David Paulides about a year ago, little boy missing on the Putty Road, that's where he was, and he was found walking in the same creek. Yes, the same creek I just talked about. And he was having a drink of water. He was quite safe. We don't have bobcats or tigers or lions or mountain lions or anything like that over here. Most ferocious thing we'd have to bite a kid would probably be a Tasmanian devil down in Tasmania. New South Wales, we have poisonous snakes and spiders, but we have dingoes, but the dingoes in that area have been wiped out because of the farmers. So where there's population of sheep, there's no dingoes because they wipe them out. That's why, say, for example, we go to Fraser Island, where there's no sheep, there's dingoes. And we say to people all the time, do not feed the dingoes on Fraser Island because they will attack you. They will attack your kids. And that's exactly what happened to Lindy Chamberlain. People were feeding the dingoes at Ayers Rock way back in 1978, and it took her baby. And that famous saying, oh, dingo got my baby. Well, it is true. And then she went to jail for 3 years, and then they found her baby's clothing in a dingo den about half a mile away from where the Chamberlains were at the time when baby Azaria was taken. And of course the stinking media went in there and said, oh, Azaria means sacrifice. But also has another name in Hebrew, has another name in another religion. But that's just what the media does. So, of course, Lindy Chamberlain, way back in the late 70s, she then sued the Northern Territory government for imprisonment for 3 years for child murder when they proved the Aboriginals even stood up in the courtroom. The local Indigenous people stood up in the courtroom and said, dingoes take babies. They've been doing it to us for thousands of years. So that's why they eradicate dingoes. But if you go to Fraser Island, don't let your kids be by themselves. Right, anyway, getting off the subject. Anyway, so this kid disappeared up there at Putty Road. I was driving down the Putty Road 1978, 79, about the same time Lindy Chamberlain lost her kid. And I pulled up with my mate Mick, and we went to go and have something to eat. And next thing you know, this rock goes flying past us, and we thought, what the hell's this? And then we looked over, and this big thing was standing there up on the on the embankment. It was about 7 8 foot tall and had a sandstone rock about that big in its hand and threw it at us. And I was like 17, 18 years old. So Mick and I seen it. And then as we drove down the Putty Road, which, to bring up the date, was way before the M1 motorway was built from Sydney to Newcastle. So if you look at a geographical map, so there's the East Coast, you've got Sydney, you've got to go to Newcastle, you've got to go over big rivers and different other obstacles. They didn't have the technology to build the motorways, right? So they had the coast road, and the coast road used to follow down along the edge of the coast, which is why in World War II they built the Putty Road, because along the coast the Japanese could pull up on the coast, boom, 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 blow up the coast and all the roads. Because with Australia's New South Wales geographical mountain layout, there's a great big mountain range behind the coast. So if we had to send troops from Sydney to Newcastle, they blew a bridge up. They'd have to go 200 miles up, 300 miles up, and 300 miles back. 1,000 miles to go 100 miles. You see? So what the government did, they built the Putty Road and they joined it up with the former convict road. So you had the convict road that come down to Putty, and then you had the road from Windsor that went up into the mountain ranges up to Colo Heights. Then they just got the two and they joined them together, very simply. And that road there's on the Putty Road, which is approximately 100 kilometres in from the coast, which means if they shot the guns from the Japanese ships, they wouldn't hit. Now, there's actually a video on my channel. It says when they built the Putty Road, and the guy says clearly in the documentary, he says, this is a top secret road being built in 1940 with the big bulldozers. And then it's even got the state premier sitting on the bulldozer. He's joining in as a war effort. The state premier was driving a bulldozer. And I worked out exactly where it was. It was at Colo Heights, on the south side of the Colo Heights shop, which is quite often where I go. And I stopped the car and I looked down over the Colo River, and in the back of that is the Upper Colo River Road. Anyway, so just, that's how well I know it. I just know everything, where everything is. I recognise an orchard or whatever. Anyway, so this bloody Yowie, getting back onto the Putty Road thing, this is that's 1940 when they built the road. 1978, I go running up there. It's still the main highway to go to Queensland. Because, okay, you're driving a semi-trailer. What's the worst thing you want to do? You want to go down a windy road and come down into Gosford, down a mountain range, come into Gosford, and there's hundreds of semi-trailers, and you got traffic lights every half a mile or every couple of blocks. You have a traffic light in every corner in Gosford. Then you're going through YU, you're going through Wyong, you're going through all sorts of places. Budgie, you're going through places like that. And a lot of the time the traffic lights are on a hill. So what's going to happen to a truck? He's going to have to start from a dead stop and go up over the hill, right? Now, I went up there with my father when I was a kid with my mother, and we were towing a caravan, and it took us a whole day to go from Sydney to Newcastle. Yes, a whole 14 hours to go from Sydney to Newcastle, that far there with my finger on a map, and yet you can get on the train and go to the Queensland border way up here in 12 hours. That's how slow it is. It was just all these hills, stop, 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 start, stop, start, stop, start. Go through Charleston, you had to go through Toronto, you had to go through all these other towns. And of course, they've all got their traffic lights because you've got the pubs on every corner. You had Australia Post and postal people, letters. You had mail trucks on the road because there was no such thing as the internet. There was no such thing as email. So of course then you've got newspaper shops, and therefore then you've got newspaper trucks. Then you've also then got interstate freight. Uh, everything going by truck, and everything goes on this one road, and it was just a bloody massive bottleneck. So anyway, so everybody, all the truckies used to leave Sydney and go up the Putty Road. So because of this reason, where I was, where this particular creature was on, it was on the original road uh, of the Convict Road to come down from the North Hunter Valley. And it was sitting there, and we parked then on the next road, which is the road that was in use until the army come through and rebuilt it. So that was still a tarred road, believe it or not. It was actually a tarred road to go to Putty up in 1938 until the army rebuilt it, and then they made it bigger. And of course this tarred road was still sitting there, so we turned off the main road, just chucked a U-turn. You know, like you're coming down an old road and you chuck a U-turn, you pull it down an old dirt tarred road. Well, we pulled in there to have something to eat. And then below us, there was the original convict road, which you can still see where the convicts had laid the sandstone for the horse and sulkies, for when they used to come up there from the Hunter Valley to go to Putty to get the crops, because that's where they used to grow all their crops. They used to grow the corn and all the other stuff out there because they knew there was nobody around, because it was absolutely dominated with mountain ranges all the way around it. There's one little road in, and there's a video down there. You can go down and see the video. It's got the one with the little kangaroo on it. The little kangaroo hops across the road. That's the road. And that's the road off the Putty Road. That's the road. That is Putty Valley. There's no shopping centre. There's no nothing out there. There's just farming ground. Well, now all the crops are gone now. Now it's privately. All the rich people have bought it up as a recluse area for all their big, multi-million dollar homes and all that sort of thing. So it's gone from being a colonial thing in like a balloon sort of settlement. But anyway, so I've gone from the main road, turned in on the second oldest road. This thing is down to the convict road, then there's a creek, and it's on the other side of the creek, and it's standing up there, up on the bank near its cave. It sees us and it throws the rock, and it threw the rock about this big, and it went about 200, 300 yards, like between 3 telegraph pole lengths. And Mick and I just looked at each other. This thing was a perfectly accurate shooter. If it wanted to hit us, it could have done. It missed us. Just to get our attention, that we looked up, and then it threw another one short of the car. So, Bigfoot, it's a great. Yes, it is. Thank you. So this thing then was sitting there, and we said, "Oh shit!" We grabbed up all our. We had a little fire that we made on the ground. I can't remember if it was a fire. Yeah. I think we just lit a little fire on the tarred road because it was a disused road and there was all a bunch of Australian bush tree branches around. We just made all that up. And we put that on the ground, made our little fire. We're heating up our billy to make a cup of tea back in 1978, 79. We never used to drink coffee back then. We were always brought up as tea drinkers. And we had my grandmother, who luckily passed away in 1984, and she was 84 years old. And she made Mick and I up a whole bunch of sandwiches. She said, go down the street, go down and buy half a kilo of Silverside, and so we did that, and then she boiled up, I think it was 2 dozen eggs, and we had hard-boiled eggs, and she peeled all them, and then on top of that we had little grandmas had like a not Tupper. We didn't have Tupperware back in them days. I can't remember how she did it. We had lettuce and tomatoes in there with a sharp knife, and we're making up our sandwiches, and we're going to have our little billy tea and have our sandwiches and all the rest. Anyway, this thing just smelt the fire, smelt the smoke. It thought food. It thought we were cooking steak and sausages or whatever, back in them days. But no, we weren't. We were just making a cup of tea. So we just grabbed our stuff, put it all in the boot, shut the boot, knocked the fire out, poured the hot billy water. A billy is it's a tin can, right? You get a tin can and you put two holes in the side up the top here, and you just put a piece of wire in it and you stick it over a stick, and that's called boiling your billy. And we even have a product called billy tea, and billy tea was designed to go into the billy. So when the water's boiling, you put the billy tea leaves in your hand, about a teaspoonful in the palm of your hand. You just drop it in, right? Very gently drop it in, and that's it. And then you, the old saying was one for me, one for whoever, and then one for the pot. And that's how you measure your tea strength to have a nice cup of tea. But anyway, so we used the tea water to put out the fire. It was on a tarred road anywhere. It was in the bush, and then we drove out, and this thing chased us down the side of the road. We're driving down the Putty Road at House Valley, and the creek is right next to us. And this thing is running down the creek and it's chasing us down to the next rest area. And that's why this thing was living there in a cave, because the cave was looking down on the old road at the Darky Creek Bridge, where that old bit of rest area was, and people used to come in there and park. And then it could run down the creek about a quarter of a mile, and there was a proper big official rest area where the creek come in and done this huge bow round like that, but the road went straight, and the council turned it into a rest area. And used to pull up, all the truckies used to pull in there, and the council or the Department of Main Roads used to keep it loaded up there with firewood, and people, the fire would never ever go out, because when somebody pulled out, somebody else was pulling in, and they cook up their billy tea, and then cook up their meat and then whatever else. So this thing had an ongoing supply of food when you think about it. And they used to have the big 80, oh no, we used to call them 44-gallon drums, but they were bigger 80 100-gallon drums. And, they stand up to about your chest height and put up on two poles, swing, and people put their rubbish in it. And there was one down by, it's still there, you still see it on Google Earth to this day. Howes Valley, Howes, Putty Road, and go down and you'll see there's a rest area on the Google Earth card. You look in, you'll see there's a big rubbish bin on the right, on the southern side, and one way down the back, and you'll see the barbecue next door to that as well. And that's where the creek goes, right around the back of it. So come up the creek when nobody's looking during the night, and you could have a feed out of the rubbish bin. So this thing it was well thought out. Had its cave. You could come down the creek, come up the side of the bank of the creek, take food out of the one bin, go round the bend in the creek, come up the bank of the creek, go into the next bin, get another feed. And next door, that was a barbecue. Cars and trucks and caravans are stopping there 24 hours, 7 days a week. And it had a good food supply. It didn't have to worry about trying to go chase kangaroos. Us humans were stopping there every hour, and it was the main highway to Brisbane from Sydney. So you think about it. It was, human supplied drive-in. It was like a McDonald's for a Bigfoot. Anyway, so we've got somebody there on the chat. Say hello. I'll just push the little button here. Let's have a look. We've got somebody there. Brendan King was here for a while ago. Anyway, Brendan, I don't know if he's gone. Oh, dude. Someone else says there, might be Ivor. I don't know. Anyway, who is it? Can we just say g'day. Just say hi. Yes, that's the Yowie story I'm talking about up there at Howes Valley. Mr. Hominoid is a Yowie. So I'm telling a true story that I actually lived through. So Mick and I get in our car, and this thing, we drove into this. We left the first spot where we were, where this thing attacked us. throwing rocks at us. We drove up the Putty Road next to the creek. We drove into this rest area where all the other people were. And unfortunately, there was only one other couple there in a car and a caravan. They were just pulling out. As we pulled in, they looked at us to say, "What the hell's wrong with you?" And they couldn't see back over the shoulder. This thing was running up the creek because they were going the other direction. So they didn't see backwards like over that way. And we drove in, we just went, "Oh shit, they're going." So then we kept going. And then this thing just stopped and stayed there at the barbecue ground, obviously smelling what these people just had there because they'd seen the caravan pulling out as well. And I thought, oh, well, okay, I ran up here, must be through there. There's a car and caravan leaving, so I didn't chase us anymore. But we'd clearly seen this 8 foot tall thing running up the creek. You can see Darky Creek. You can see it quite easily on Google Earth. It's got trees down every so often. But basically, I mean, if you're 8 foot tall, I mean, you can jump over those big rocks like they're nothing, you know. But this thing had a trail. You could see it knew exactly where to run because it ran it all day, every day. And then what else happened after that? We drove up to, uh, where we go to? We drove up to Singleton. Mick couldn't really talk. He was, and so I put the car radio on, so I listened to the old AM radio. Got up to Singleton Heights, pull up at the big truck stop up there, you can still see it. I think it was a Shell or a BP or some bloody thing back, Golden Fleece, I think, back in the day. And then we kept driving. He said, "No, no, no, don't stay here. That bloody thing." I said, "Mick," I said, "that's 50 miles back." "No, no, 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 keep." Mick, I said, "All the truck drivers here." "No, no, 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 keep going, keep going." So we kept going. He got me to keep driving and driving and driving until I got dead tired. And then I pulled up at a town called Llangollen. Now, Llangollen is Langothlin, Llangollen. It's north of Gyra, which is way up past, say, when we went Singleton, we went to Scone, Aberdeen, uh, right up there to Werris Creek, Murrundi, up past Tamworth, up Uralla, Armidale, Tamworth, right up past all them, got right up to Gyra. So I drove about 400 something miles. And then I said, "No, I'm just too tired. I've got to stop." And I pulled up next to the old train tracks, which were still working at the time. And they were running for another 2 years because they didn't close down until about 1980. And the farmer had the sheep in the paddock next door to the train tracks. In the paddock next door, there's the railway station car park, and I pulled in there to have a sleep. Oh, about 3 o'clock in the morning. And the next thing I know, something grabbed the back of the car, grabbed the tow ball. I was asleep on the front bench seat of the car. Mick was on the back bench seat of the car. He had his head on the passenger side. I had my head on the driver's side. We had all the doors locked. It was foggy. It was a sheep and cattle horse area. It was out up in the high country. It wasn't in the city. It was like this Llangollen. You can still see it today, Llangollen. It's there on Google Earth. You can still see the old railway platform sort of across the road there from the post office service station. And the next thing you know, the back of the car goes up in the air like up, down, up, down, up, down. And Mick is asleep on the back seat. His head goes up and boom, he hits the ceiling of the car. And boom, he hits the ceiling of the car again. Boom. And he said, get us the fuck out of here. Get us the fuck out of here. So, of course, I started the old, and if you really want to be precise, it was a VC Valiant 1967 model. And I chucked a U-turn, drove out, smoked the dust up, scoured rocks or whatever is in its face. It picked us right up off the ground. The back wheels are off the ground. I remember that because I half rolled off the front seat and got half in between the front of the bench seat and the steering wheel. So to do that, you'd have to have the back wheels up off the ground. Right? So I took off and we drove up to Tenterfield. We pulled up into Tenterfield into the BP service station, and then we just passed out. just stopped the car and passed out. No, nobody annoyed us. Nobody came and said anything. They just knew, oh, a couple of kids are dead tired. We're only 17 years old, and we just slept off there at Tenterfield. So there you go. That's a true story. So if you want to look it up, you'll hear me word for word. It's Bigfoot case files back in their archive section. New South Wales, Yowie, 1978-79. Me and Mick and I. Anyway, so there you go. Anyway, so what was I talking about originally? So that's the Putty Road. Then we went up the New England Highway. So New England Highway, Llangollen, Langothlin, Llangollen. It's also an Irish name. And then the other one is Putty Road at Howes Valley, Howes Valley. And you'll see the rest area, which is where it ran down to when the caravan was pulling out. And we were to the south of that. You'll see where the Darky Creek goes underneath the road of the Putty Road. And if you switch the Google Earth map, you'll see the creeks. You'll see there's a T-piece in the creek, and that's where this thing had its cave. Now, I've gone out there, I've filmed the cave. I filmed it. You can actually see where it used to sit, where its ass used to sit, and I could look down before that bloody weeds and vines got out there. Back, 50 years ago, we didn't have the lantana everywhere. We didn't have these domestic vines growing out there in the garbage because now people have dumped them out there. So that's an interesting one. Now, the third Yowie I seen in my lifetime was just up the road from Llangollen at a town by the name of, wait for it, this is going to shock you. It's the highest elevated railway line in New South Wales. And the town's name is, oh God, I've forgotten. I've forgotten. Anyway, I'll think in a minute. Well, Ben Lomond. Anyway, so what happened was I'm up there, I'm doing the train track inspections in 1995. So now this is now some 14 years later. And I'm going through a cutting now. I had two culverts and I had a cutting in between. So now cutting is when you have a hill and you cut the dirt out so the train can go through. And where they cut the dirt out on the hill to make it level, they build a culvert and then put that dirt on top of that to make it level all the way through. So the two culverts to go look at. So first of all, I do the first culvert. I read the mileage marker on that. I made my little handwritten report, my little book. Back in 1995, we didn't have digital cameras like these. We had these little Kodak cameras or Panasonic or whatever. And I took my photo of either side of the culverts with the mileage markers still clearly on them. The railway line now been shut down for 15 years, and it was just to do a safety inspection. So no farmer could get hurt or somebody walking on it if it was collapsing. So then I start walking into this cutting, and I've got the dirt goes up either side of me, like a railway cutting has that sort of, which way is the camera, has that angle like that up the sides. And I thought, God, something stinks, smells like a dead animal. And the next thing you know, I look up and there's a fox. The fox comes running over the cutting, runs down on the train tracks in front of me, a wild fox. Now, wild fox won't go anywhere near a human being. They'll run like shit. Well, this fox, he sat just in front of me, only a couple of yards away. And he kept looking up. Well, this is looking up the embankment. And of course, I said, "What's the matter, Foxy? What's the matter?" Of course, then I spoke. So this thing was obviously sitting over the embankment. It was chasing the fox to catch it. That's the only thing I can work it out to be. And I was walking up the train tracks in the culvert with the dirt embankments either side of me. I could smell this bloody rotten, stinking, putrid smell. And then when I got to the next culvert, I looked up to the end of the culvert, and the fox was sitting there right at the end of the culvert, and he didn't want to move, but I was coming and coming and closer, and the fox didn't like me getting any closer. Then when I turned around, I thought, "What are you looking at? You're not looking at me." So I turned around and looked behind me, and all I seen was this puff of red hair about this big up here, up on the red clay sort of farm, because the sheep have been eating the muddy grass up there, so it was like mowed. So you see the red soil come up and then went over the embankment. It was mowed like by sheep. And you see this red thing just go like this. I would do like the back of my head, right? It was just like sooner like that. It just see the red hair like that. About 3 seconds. You see it go down. 3 seconds. One, two, three. So I wasn't imagining. I sort of like went, there's something there. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't going, I got sun in my eyes because I was looking true south. The sun was above my head. So the sun wasn't in my eyes. I was up there in the middle of the day. So then when I seen the hair go down, I turned around and looked back at the fox. The fox was bolting down the culvert and was going out through the cutting, heading down towards the culvert, which I had to go down and inspect. It was going to go hide in the storm drain or piss off down the creek and then cross the road. So if you want to look it up, it's Ben Lomond. Follow the old train tracks, and you'll see there's two culverts, and clearly, even to this day, you still see the cutting. You'll still see the cutting in the hill north of Ben Lomond, out in the middle of nowhere. And of course, at the time I get out the other end, I didn't know anything about Bigfoots or Yowies. This is a Yowie experience I had, but I didn't realise it was a Yowie sitting just right up there behind me chasing the fox. He was going to get the fox for dinner. These things apparently can run 45, 50 mile an hour. From what I've now learnt as Mr. Hominoid watching the one on Thinker Funker, and he showed this thing walking down the thing, and the kid goes, "Oi, hey, you," and the thing takes off. And they worked it out, it was about 50 mile an hour. This thing just has this weird sort of run. So by the time I got out, I'm just kept inspecting my railway culvert. I just go down, check the bridge, take a photo, get out the tape measure, what else, have a look underneath, get up and around, get over the ballast, get the train tracks, look around the other side. I turn, look around, couldn't see nobody, couldn't see nothing because it goes down, there's little hills, little wavy bits. I mean, this thing only had to go over a little tiny hill. It could have been up there on the other side of the cutting. I wouldn't have a clue. That's where it was. So I'm just putting it out there. So now it's on record. So if I drop dead next week, at least somebody's going to know about it. No, I'm not going to drop dead. I'll just wait for knee surgery. Anyway, sun's coming up. So there you go. True story by Mr. Hominoid. So go look it up. North of Ben Lomond, Putty Road at Howells Valley, and Llangollen, New England Highway. So, and the railway line of Ben Lomond, right? North of Ben Lomond. I think it's about 1 or 2 miles, 1 or 2 kilometres. It wasn't very far. Because I remember I slept the night at Ben Lomond. I parked my big motorhome in there. I parked in there because I lived in a house bus between 93 until 2006, 2007. So you had a fair time. So that's still 13, 14 years. So anyway, so that's it there for me, Mr. Hominoid. So anybody got a comment? What's the last minute think? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. That's about it. So see you there from me, Mr. Hominoid. Hope you enjoyed that little chat. See you later. Remember, keep a smile on your face, always be happy. Look at me. I got to get 2 artificial knees put in. I'm still smiling. You don't let life worry you. I mean, look at the poor bastards over there in Ukraine getting their homes bombed. Look at the poor people in bloody Sri Lanka. They've got no bloody food, they've got no petrol, they've got no nothing. Now, oh yes, and we just had all the things going on here in Australia and all around the world. My nose really that bent. It's not really that bent. God, I hate looking at cameras. See you later, Mr. Ominoid. If you enjoyed this chat, if you want to hear Yowie stories, you want to hear another Yowie story, leave me a comment on this actual video. I will be checking it. I read all my comments. So even hello to Cosmic Radio, Seattle Jack, Howard, Ivor, Brendan, Tyson, oh God, Crouton Bear, hello to Big Crouton Bear, haven't seen you for ages. I guess I got your message there the other day. Mr. Dog's going good. He's he's getting putting on weight, which is good because it's winter time. He's starting to put on a bit of weight. It just seems different. Floodwaters are going away, change of government. I don't get into politics. I made a couple of, go down to my Mr. Ominoid channel, get and have a look, you'll see the Australian government's just had a re-election. So if you want to get in and have a look, hello, got somebody there, come in and say g'day. Yeah, so we had a change of government, going from Liberal government to Labor government. Liberals have been wiped out in Victoria federally. They've lost so many. They've got one Liberal seat left in the whole state of Victoria. What this election in Australia has just been incredible. It's just wiped out the Liberal government massively with all the corruption, all the bloody backstabbing, all the bloody bullshit, all the lies. Putting, I had Jack and Howard say to me, they said, "Oh, you know about these prison camps you got in Australia over there for the coronavirus up there in the Northern Territory?" And I'm going, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We heard nothing about it." Well, we've been like bloody Russia. We've been told nothing about it. Well, now there's a change of government on Saturday, and today's Monday. Already the Prime Minister announced that he's letting people out of prison on Christmas Island. And we didn't even know they were there. As a family from central Queensland who came over here 10 years ago, get this, they escaped from Sri Lanka 10 years ago, were giving a visa, come out here, and they went out on a farm in central Queensland, up the top end of Queensland or somewhere. They started up a farm, loved by the local community, thousands of protesters against it. They got deported out, took them to court, so they got put on Christmas Island, along with the 2 children born here in Australia, Australian citizen children, and they were taken to Christmas Island, which is off the northwest point of Australia. And they're from Queensland on the top east point. I mean, Christmas Island's off the west coast. So they're 4,000 miles across Australia. So you've got Queensland over here, and they're taking right across Australia to West Australia, then out over the ocean to Christmas Island, which is where all the overseas bloody boat people used to go because they wouldn't let them into Australia. And then they turned around, they put them on a plane and took them up there to the islands to the north of Queensland. So now they're going to get rid of that as well. Labor's going to get rid of that, which is what the Liberal government's been paying for the last 9 years that they've been in power, which all started under the John Howard government. And what's his name? John Howard had it. Who else kept it open? Scott Morrison had it open before him. A few other ones. Malcolm Turnbull, Tony Abbott, They wouldn't close it down. So now it's got to get closed down. The Labor government's going to close it down. These bloody, they've even got a hotel in Melbourne, apparently. There's a hotel in Melbourne. They've had refugees in there. The government's actually gone around and put a wire fence up around it with a guard on it. A 12-foot high fence around a public hotel in Melbourne. And it's just full of refugees from overseas, illegal ones. But they're going to put a fence around it. And that's where, what's his name, the tennis player went last year. Remember that, whatever his name was, the tennis player, when he didn't want to get vaccinated. That's where they stuck him. And that's how we all found out about it. Because he spoke up about it. He said, Australia's got a bloody motel with barbed wire around it. We said, well, what are you talking about? It was all covered up. It was down in the back suburbs of Melbourne. What's his name? The tennis player. Anyway. So anyway, for me, Mr. Ominoid, have a good day. Things in Australia are changing. Keep tuned to the channel. We'll let you know what goes on here in Australia, what we're going to find out about the previous government under ScoMo, Scott Morrison, all his corruption, all his feeding money to big multi-million dollar companies. During the pandemic, he said helping Australians, and he gave the money to these billion-dollar companies that didn't fucking need the money, and they were still employing people. Why give a company money that's still employing people during a pandemic which wasn't even affected by the pandemic, such as mining, because they drive around great big dump trucks where they're not associating with anybody. He gave millions and billions of dollars. Why? So there's going to be, and this new government's actually going to form an ICAC, Independent Commission Against Corruption, federally, which means Morrison is going to be dragged before the courts when it's set up. Doesn't matter, it might be 5 years' time. Labor government's now going to set it up, because the Liberal government set up one in the state of New South Wales, and the only people ever been charged by ICAC in New South Wales, set up by the Liberal government, is Liberal politicians. They wear the blue outfits. Labor is red, Greens is green, they're the tree huggers as we call them. Then we have this One Nation Party, which used to be Pauline Hanson. She's now left that, and now that's run by, what's his name? David, can't think of his name. He was also a New South Wales Premier for a little bit. I make politics. I don't really want to get in politics. We had an American, actually, if you're an American viewer, we had an American woman come out here married an Australian and her name is Keneally. And she's still got part of an American accent, and she was the New South Wales Premier for a period of time. And she was there with the Labor government. This is the only mistake federal Labor made. And they took her from where she lived in her suburb of Marrickville, which is the same suburb as the now Prime Minister Albo's from. And he said, well, I can't have you sitting here. He said, I'll put you out there at Liverpool and Villawood out that way. And she failed because the local member was an actual Vietnamese or whatever they are out there, Asians of some type, because that's Villawood and Cabramatta and Carramar is all very Asian. So they put her out there. Anyway, she got what they call a drop-in politician. You're supposed to live in the local area where you get elected. Well, she didn't live there, did she? She lived 50 miles away. And of course they said, we don't want her. She's a former premier, from 10, 15 years ago. She was a stupid bitch. So nobody voted for her. She died in the arse real quick. Labor really lost the seat. They had a high chance of winning the seat. Christine Keneally, that's right. And there was only about 2 points difference on the previous former Labor member and this independent. Well, once they put Christine Keneally in there, they said, no, stop her. She's already been Premier. We don't want her federally. No, she's an idiot because the way she thinks. Sorry to Americans, but she thinks Americans. You don't put an American running office in the Australian government because she's trying to think American way she thinks. Like she's still got that in her head from when she was a kid. And said, no, that's not how we do things in Australia. We're Aussies. Australia. It's the same as if you had Australians come in there to your White House. You imagine what the repercussions will be? Who do these guys think they are? They're fucking Australians in America running our White House as our senators. You wouldn't like it. Works both ways. Same as China or anywhere else. They wouldn't like it. Well, we didn't like it. Yeah, Christina Keneally. Yeah, anyway, so she's gone there with a tail between her legs. I think she might still get a job as an overseas ambassador somewhere. Cheesy what they do with them. They give them a job overseas as an ambassador. She actually, Penny Wong, she's a married lesbian. I believe she's going to be the next Australian Foreign Minister. So she obviously speaks Chinese, Mandarin. She's a lesbian, so she's gay, so equal rights and all that sort of stuff. So that should be a very interesting life. It's going to be very interesting here in Australia. Very interesting. It's even a young married gay Labor guy lost his seat. He started crying on camera. He said, I lost my seat. He said, I'm glad I got my husband. He was crying. And don't make fun of that because even ScoMo, the former Prime Minister, he went to church the next day when he found out he admit defeat. He stood up in church to say a prayer. He started crying. So, yeah, it does hit you. You lose that office job. ScoMo actually started crying, trying to read a prayer out of the Bible. But mind you, he wasn't a Catholic. No, he's in some bloody, I don't know what it is. It wasn't a Catholic church or a Church of England or something. It was some bloody thing in a dormitory, one of those, hallelujah, all those bloody bullshit ones. Anyway, see you later from me, Mr. No, not bullshit, but you know, not the old Catholic Church. It wasn't Church of England. It wasn't Protestant. It wasn't anything like that. There's some, I don't know, he might be Jehovah's Witness. I don't know what he is. Wouldn't have a clue. Don't know, don't care. He's gone. He got flushed in the dunny. See you later, me, Mr. Dominoid. Peace. Be happy. See you later.